Hello and welcome to the Sister Show. This episode, I can't tell you how excited Nancy and I are to bring three amazing women to tackle this conversation that not everyone feels comfortable about discussing amongst women. And it's really speared off of an article that I wrote for this month's Sybil magazine. And I'm going to read you a short blip in the article, and I'm also going to attach the link before this video if any of you are not watching it live and you're watching a replay of this. So we're going to all be discussing some unconscious behavior that happens within women. And so I am personally confused by the dichotomy that happens within our gender. We, as women, fight for equality and to be treated respectfully. Yet in the same breath, we do the very thing that we are fighting against. Maybe it's unconscious behavior, but on some level, we have to recognize it and stop making an excuse why we accept it or why we turn the other cheek. If another woman, possibly a friend, does this, it is going to take women speaking up to spark the change. And there's, we're going to pass this around so we have a little opportunity for all these amazing women to introduce themselves. And we're all coming from different places all over the globe. And so I just want to take the opportunity so that everyone can introduce themselves to our audience right now. And so if you could say where you're streaming in from and kind of your title and a little bit about yourself. And so Cathy, welcome to the call. You want to take it?
Thank you so much, Gina. And yes, I am originally from Peru. I'm streaming from Silicon Valley right now. Very excited to be here. What I do on my everyday, I'm a social entrepreneur, an expert in global community building, and I'm extremely excited about everything that has to do with equality and education. So that's me, and then I think we go to Gloria.
Thank you so much, Cathy. Hello everyone, I'm Gloria Cotton, and I am a native of Chicago. I still live in the area of Elgin, which is 46 miles. Let's see, in my day job, I'm a senior partner with Inquest Consulting. We are global diversity and inclusion practitioners. What really makes my heart sing is no matter what I'm doing, if I'm singing, I'm a mezzo-soprano too and an energy worker and all that stuff. No matter what I'm doing, it's about healing and the extension of love. That's really it. Different words in the corporate arena, but that's really what it is.
I love it.
Okay, so Raj.
Hi everyone, I'm Raj Anderson, MBA, and I'm live streaming from Miami, but as you can tell from my accent, I'm not from Miami, I'm from Britain. I've been in the US just over a year. I'm known by many as a savvy strategist, and I actually work with enlightened entrepreneurs to help them to bring their creative vision to light, claim their inherent strategic power, with a real focus on emotional intelligence. And I'm deeply passionate about being here today because I have over 15 years experience working in the UK in the National Health Service, leading equality, diversity and inclusion programs for women and black and minority ethnic communities. So this topic has come up again and again throughout my career. It's coming up now as well, and I'm really passionate about really helping people to self-connect and think about their influence and impact out there with their communities. I'm going to pass you over to Nancy.
Hi everyone, as you already know, I'm streaming from LA. It's such a beautiful day today, and I, as well as all the ladies, I'm super excited about today's show because having these conversations are not typically, how can I say, it's not really comfortable to have these conversations because it may trigger some inner stuff that we know we have to work on for ourselves. So I want to dive right into it because I want everybody to get the most out of this. So from your article, Gina, I think something that really hit me, the question that really, really hit me was, why do female bosses talk down to other women who are not at the same category as they are, as if they are in a lower class. And the reason I chose this question is because it is true and dear to my heart. Since I was young, any job that I had, if I had a female boss, it was just one of those things where I would start hating going to work because I could feel their, I don't know what it was. At that moment, I didn't know their anger or just anything that you did, it was wrong, you were never good enough. And so what started happening to me was I started playing small. So I would not speak up as much. I wouldn't ask questions. I wouldn't speak up when something was not right. And so as time passed, you know, even going home crying, I remember so clearly a CFO, a female CFO, just talking down to me during a meeting, and it was just like dagger after dagger after dagger. And it really hurt because then when I started getting male bosses, it was like the best thing ever. We would get along, we would say what we needed to talk to each other about, it was business, and we moved on. Even though we disagreed, we moved on, we spoke our truths, and we went on. And so for me, this one's a big one because, you know, it's tough to admit, but I would rather work with a male boss than a female boss because of how I was treated and my experience with it. So does anybody else have their point of view?
Who wants to jump in and tackle that one first? You know what? I might as well just jump in because coming from corporate America, you know, I had the opportunity, I won't name the company that I worked for, but it was, let's just say this, it was very male dominated. So it's very interesting to me, Nancy, because I didn't have a whole lot of experience working with female bosses. Matter of fact, when I transferred, because I'd worked in 6 different buildings from Idaho to Hawaii and Utah, then it was, for me, it was like, yay, girl power. And I almost felt like I was being compared or threatened just from the male's perspective. But I will share that I did encounter a couple of women who were above me, and they were female, and I almost felt that they felt inferior because of my knowledge and my experience even at a short time. And so sometimes I wonder if it is because of, you know, people feeling threatened. What do you guys think?
I think I'd like to jump in here, Gina and Nancy, and I was thinking about my experience in the UK in corporate. And we used to discuss this quite openly in some of the women's groups and programs that we used to run. And one of the things that we found was that it was such a challenge for women to get into those senior roles because of the cultural issues. It was male-dominated in senior leadership roles. So women have had to really fight to get into some of those roles in the first place. And in terms of their own survival, they were taking on personas that perhaps weren't serving them or their teams very well. So we did a lot of work of starting to get them to hold that mirror up. And often some of those things, as you're saying, Gina, were coming from self-worth, self-value, having to really fight against a culture that wasn't really open to them to be in that position in the first place. And almost throughout their own journey to get there, they were forgetting that they needed to actually be bringing other women on board rather than going into a place of, well, I've made it and I have to fight to stay here and I have to be the only female in this role and not bring anyone along with me.
You know, I've had that same experience, Raj, and what I have also seen is that once someone has the key to the male floor, they want to be sure that they're looked at as one of them. So I'm one of you now, and many times they will adopt the negative behavior of what they have seen. And they will perpetuate that because they want to distance themselves from other women. So I am not one of them. I really am a faux man. I really am you. And so it's a cycle of abuse and the abused abusing others. So they won't be abused anymore. It's interesting.
I have I have had totally different experiences about working with female bosses. So even though I understand and I have seen in other environments and heard about, with me it was more than every time that I had a female boss, except for once, I was mothered. And I really love that. And I think that has also a lot to do with whom I chose to work with. I knew I always have the power to choose my bosses, and I went for the bosses that I knew were going to treat me well, make me grow, give me a hand, lift me up. For me, that has been a very important skill to look forward in a place where I work. And because I needed that. I needed from a female a motherly love and embrace, and I was very aware of that. The one time that I had a boss that definitely did not like me, which happened also to be female, and it's the only boss that didn't like me, I went off immediately. And she taught me a great lesson, that I didn't need to put up with her struggles and her behaviors and her insecurities, because that was not the place for me. I was not a damper, so I moved on. I didn't make a big deal out of it. And that was it.
Gosh, you guys all gave such amazing kind of, perspective on that. What do you think, Nancy, about all of that?
You know what? I love hearing everybody's perspective, because and now, as I feel like, Raj, you said a word earlier that I was like, boom. You said enlightened entrepreneurs, and I thought that hit my heart, because now that I'm doing business on my own, now those insecurities, now I realize what they were. So as I go back and see all these, things that happened, I was like, that was never me. It was them. It was their insecurities. It was their issues that they were dealing with. And now it's totally different, because when I do come to something in that sense where, let's say I'm going to partner up, or I'm having a meeting with a female, whether it's a CFO or somebody of a higher rank, it's so much easier for me to completely disconnect and not get attached to how they're feeling, their anger, their insecurity, or whatever. And honestly, when it comes to that point, during the meeting, I'm sending them so much love and light, because I'm like, it's not me. I'm not taking it personal. And just sending in the love and light. It is the craziest thing to see how they shift and they change into a more vulnerable, like those all of a sudden be like, oh, I went through this, and it was just like, oh, like it just changes like the dynamic and the energy in the room between us, when before I would have probably ran out of there crying. And now it's so different, and I feel like it helps in business to understand that and be enlightened and know that there's a mirror in front of every single person in what situation happens. So thank you, everybody. That was amazing, like hearing everybody's perspective. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. I think it brings up so much, and definitely whatever perspective you're coming from. And so my, little insight and question for you guys, you lovely ladies, is, I've been with my husband for almost 10 years now, and I'm from Idaho originally. And, he's black. I'm obviously white. And I guess and I have to joke about this, because I always am teased that I sometimes have these sparkly glasses on. And they see the world all beautiful and sparkly, and sometimes some of the unconscious behavior, it's hurtful, when you do see it. But my question is really, why women of, let's just say, in my example, my husband's black, so black women giving me dirty looks being with him. I do understand, I guess, elements of it, but, I guess maybe because I really see people for who they are, kind of through the skin, and I realize that not everyone sees that. So racism and all those sorts of things really hurt me and hurt my heart. But my experience in Idaho, I didn't really get that a lot. Matter of fact, they would probably more be, but there's not the ratio for black people in Idaho is a lot less. But we moved here to Texas, and all of a sudden, my sparkly glasses were nowhere to be found. I was seeing it everywhere. We went in, specifically one that stands out is we went into a tire place to get our tires changed. And I kept feeling someone, you know how you get that feeling, someone staring at you. And I look up, and they were laughing and kind of pointing. And, you know, he had kind of told me some of the, you know, unconscious behaviors that happened, but it really like hurt me because I really wanted to just go over, sit down, have a conversation with him. But I'm not going to lie, you guys, there was an element of like, really? Why? So anyways, that's what I'm passionate about asking you guys, and so I would love your guys' insight since we have a lot of different cultures here. Who wants to be brave and jump in?
So I'll jump in. Here's, you know, to understand racism and prejudice in the United States, that is PhD degrees we'd have to work on because there are so many nuances. But to try to answer it quickly, it's a matter of a couple of things. One, the perpetuation and unconscious need and desire to perpetuate the race. I believe every race wants to perpetuate itself. Now, from a spiritual perspective, we're all human race and all of that, but we want to create our own kind. Well, I can't do that if the man who could be my mate is with someone else making babies. So then I can't have babies. Or I have to look outside my race. Well, now, wait a minute, look at what's happening, right? And so that all goes back to a sense of lack. There are not enough people that I want to be available to me. And then there's the last thing is the very real phenomenon of people not having racial prejudice against their own race. And that is in every race, has people who hate people in their own race. Every race, every culture. It's a human, unfortunate phenomenon. And so there are black men who, it's not just I prefer or like all women. I definitely will not date black women. That's a real issue. We're not the only race. There are others too. But when you put all that together, some people might feel, well, where is my black man if I'm a black woman? I tried to answer that quickly.
Wow, that was great, Gloria. Jeez, I was like, wow, that was very educational, I would say. I want to jump in and say, you know what, I've experienced the opposite, where I've experienced being in a relationship with Mexican men before, and I don't prefer them. And so when I'm out and let's say I'm with a white guy or when I'm with a Middle Eastern man, I've noticed a change in how I'm treated. So when I'm with a white man or a Middle Eastern man, it's like I kind of get that, like, the waiters are a lot like nicer, and they're like so they're willing to like help you in any sort of way. And I hate to say it, but when I've gone on a date with, let's say, a black man, they will give me the attention, but then when it comes to them, it's like, oh, what did you need? And it hurts. It hurts because I can feel it. And it makes me so uncomfortable because I'm not doing it. It's happening in front of me, and it is one of the worst feelings ever. And you can't. It's like, how do you get out of it? You're stuck in the middle. But it doesn't happen when I'm with a Middle Eastern man or a white man. It's totally different. On the contrary, when I'm with them, they almost see me as like a little less. Like they're like, oh, it's a Mexican girl with a man like this. Like, come on. So I kind of get, I get treated a little bit less than, and I mean, I'm aware of it, so it doesn't get to me as much, but I could see how this is an issue, and I agree with Gloria. I think it has to do with every race is portrayed a certain way. The Mexicans are supposed to be with, working in the fields or moms at home, and it's just like, really, like a lot of people, even to me, will say, "Oh, you don't look Mexican." I don't look Mexican. So what is a Mexican supposed to look like? Well, you don't talk like one either. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, give me some. I get it everywhere I go when I'm having conversations. They'll say, "You don't think Mexican." I don't think Mexican? Like, who says that? But it's the look, it's the thinking, it's all these things that I'm like, okay, you know what? And I can't even hate, because I'm like, you know what? You've been exposed to a certain part of the Mexican culture. You've been exposed to that, and so that's all you know. And I haven't. So, when now it's starting to get a little easier to go through, but it is a little rough to kind of understand where you're on both sides. Like, I'm constantly on both sides, and it's like, wow, I'm like, this is crazy. But it's all awareness, and it's all what you've been exposed to.
And I would love to build on that, actually, building on what both Nancy and Gloria are saying. And it's all these layers of things that are happening, the cultural norms, the cultural stereotypes, the cultural preservation that's taking place. It's understanding difference and diversity. It's really getting to the root of, ultimately, we're people are people. But I mean, from my own experience, I have faced outright discrimination, I faced outright racism, and I faced daily unconscious bias because my husband is white, I'm British Indian. And we'll probably explore this some other time, but I led a double life for 12 years when my parents didn't know that I had chosen to be with a white man because of the expectations on me as an Indian woman growing up, and their cultural norms and the stereotypes and the tradition around the expectations of what was right for me to do. And the daily discrimination that we would outly face in the UK, where people would think nothing of spitting at me, calling me names from my own community, and then from his community almost seeing it as not really a real legitimate relationship. And for me, one of the things that I found, and we found when we were visiting the US regularly, is that we weren't noticed as a dual heritage relationship. And the freedom that hit me in terms of I was just with someone, and that enabled me to really explore deeper about people and start to think about what is it that people really see? What is it that people are hearing? What are they feeling when this is all going on? And I think it goes back to, we just started to discuss this earlier, it's about education, it's about insight, and it's about having the opportunity to be around people that are different and diverse, because you learn new ways. And that's why I'm loving being with you ladies here, because we have such a diverse group and we're learning new things all the time.
Oh my gosh, you know what, Raj? I did not know that about you, and how absolutely perfect that you joined this show. I am flooded with goosebumps, and I have to tell you, I was feeling every bit of that, of what you're, going through and have gone through, and I really appreciate all of your guys' perspective, because I really truly believe at the end of the day it really is about bringing some of this unconscious behavior up, because when we are in groups of women and when we find ourselves talking amongst each other, and when someone chooses, because it's always a choice, right? When someone chooses to kind of go there, I am that one that kind of sparks everyone to think something different, because how a pattern is changed and transmuted is awareness, is knowing something different, because a lot of things that we project, I should say, we learn from such an early age, and an early time on. And I know we've spent a bit of time. This is a really good topic. I honestly feel that some of these racial things, we could talk the whole hour on almost one topic. So Cathy, I would love for you to kind of share what you're passionate about kind of bringing to the light of this conversation that we're having.
For me, when reading these questions and thinking about us, I wanted to look for a unifying, something that would unify all the questions. And to me, that came down to trust. So I selected a question that it's, when do you trust women? And for me, the answer is, I trust women the most when I trust my own skills, abilities, and intuition. And I am afraid of what other people think. I am afraid of what other women might think of me. But I found that since really early in my life, I needed to survive. I needed to go through that fear. And the only anchor that I have to not to be insecure and to face my fears was really rooted within myself. So I might see, competition, I might see the looks, I might hear the comments, and all of that. But my awareness, and the awareness that I want to ask each of you is, how much do you trust yourself in regards to other people's comments or looks or things like that? Again, my question is, when do you trust women?
So I'm going to jump in, and I will say that I am guilty, or if I want to use that word, I guess, I am guilty of trusting everyone. And here's why. Because I think I trust me. And I didn't always trust me, and that took many years, and it's something that I can only say I really root myself in trusting me, as far as if someone has, chooses to hurt me or break a trust, I can choose something different. And that whole paradigm changed everything in me. I went through a period of time in my life where I was so scared of judgment. I thought about it all the time. I talked about it all the time. Now I have different stories that I say. But I think for me, I trust a woman right off, because I feel that what we get in this world, what we give. And so if I want people to trust and see my heart, which is always at the core of me, I want people to see me, I have to also project that. So I do have to say I trust women right up front, and if they tell me, because people tell who they are. And that's where we have to know, okay, they're showing me who they are, and it's my job to either have them in my circle or not, but initially deserve my trust.
Jenna, I have to say I'm like you. Part of my natural, delicious diversity is I just give people my trust. And then they either keep it, they earn the right to keep it, or either they earn the right not to. I had to learn what a low self-esteem was about, because I didn't know anything about that. So I was blessed to have people around me when I was a child that told me I could do anything, I could be anything. And so that I was beautiful, all that stuff. So I grew up really having that as an internal part of who I am, not an outside part of who I am. And so I assumed everyone was like that. I've learned, no, they're not. But in business, what I do now is, when we're starting to work together as a team, I make sure that we sit down and we say, okay, what needs to happen so that you feel welcome, so that you feel valued, respected, and heard? When we agree and when we disagree, What are the behaviors that I need to demonstrate so you and you and you and you will have that experience? Otherwise, it's a succubus of our innovative juice, and ain't nobody got no time for that. So it's a matter of practicality. Yes, it's fueled by my spirituality, but it's a matter of business practicality just to get it out there. That's my belief.
Wow. Listen to you, Gloria. My goodness, your deliciousness is like so amazing. I love, love it. And I'm glad that, Cathy, that you brought this question up because this is a hard one for me. I'm like that since I was very young. I feel like everybody always said, you're so naive. And I was, and like Gloria, I grew up a lot, with going to church and having all these amazing people around me. So as soon as I separated myself from that and left, by myself to college, I just assumed everybody was like that. And I came to California. I assumed everybody was like that. And little by little, it was like I just felt daggers from behind, left and right. And I was like, wait a minute. I didn't know how to react to them because I've never been exposed to that. And I've never done it. So it's kind of like, I'm just like, wait, what's going on here? And then because I wasn't very aware of who I was, it started making me get lower. And as far as like, I was like this ray of sunshine. And as those things were happening, I kind of dimmed the light. And what I started doing was doing this. And then I wondered, how come nobody sees me? Because I was doing it to myself. And, Cathy, you mentioned something also when you're saying, when do you trust women? And you're right. Like, I just heard you guys say that, and I was like, oh, my God, it is all rooted with, it's when I trust myself to the fullest potential of who I am and who I want to be, that it doesn't matter with anything else. Like, you go into every relationship with an open heart. And you ladies are right. Then I get to choose, do I keep you in my circle or not, instead of having that fear of, do I trust you? Okay, let me wait for a little bit, because you're already portraying that they may do something that you may not like. So thank you so much for all this insight. My gosh, I'm learning so much. So thank you, guys.
And I think I want to build on that as well. I think thinking about my own experiences and how, that trust really does come from knowing yourself better and having that self-confidence and having that self-connection. When I just think about the life experiences that shaped me, I was that person that, forget not trusting women, I didn't trust anyone because of having to hide my identity, not being able to be transparent in terms of who I really was in living that double life. But it also led to so much incongruence in my work life. It led to incongruence how I was professionally. And I think back to the type of person that I was and the frequency that I was vibrating on and what I was attracting to myself, because I know we're going to explore this more, but if I think about, we talk about like attracts like. I was underconfident. I did not trust. I was fearful. So everywhere I went, that's what was happening. That's what I was attracting. People hurting me or harming me because that's what I thought my self-value and worth was. And that's what I expected of people. And that's what I expected of women, because that's the type of relationship I had with my mother. So, once again, this is deep. We could talk about these types of things for a long time, but it's kind of our world map. It's our life experiences. It's where we come from in our journey, and also the stories we tell ourselves. And I had a conversation with a friend recently who we went out, and she made a really bitchy comment about another woman. And I said, where did that come from? And it got me thinking about this show, and it got me thinking about everywhere I would go, something would happen where somebody might not be very nice to me, or I'd love to go dancing. I go dancing, someone poke me in the back or push me. Now, that doesn't happen to me anymore. So where was I in terms of my frequency and what I was vibrating out in my own self-worth? So I just wanted to talk about that a bit. and where you have to consciously shift to in terms of where you're at.
And just on that, to me right now, I just had like a wow experience, because I noticed the three of you, the four of you, were very sheltered in infancy. As for me, it was totally the opposite. And I think I had to be myself from the get-go, because as a child, not that I didn't want to trust, I wanted to trust so much, but I couldn't. I was not put on an environment in which was safe for me. So my survival skills and my deep core beliefs in me had to be very strong. But it's amazing, because in my thought, I should be the one that had those kinds of issues, like going in the world and not trusting. And it's totally the opposite. And it makes me think so much about early education and how important it's not to shelter our kids. Because with your example, what I'm seeing is when we shelter and then the kids go into the world, they get crushed in their insecurities. But when children are exposed, they are prepared to be who they are for reals. And I just thought, wow, this is amazing. I would have never thought about this in this way.
Kathy, with that, what you're saying with children, now I could definitely, and we probably, Nancy, should tackle that whole show about conscious parenting, but I can tell you that what you're speaking of is all about that inner confidence, something that took me to turn 40 years old to learn. I want to instill in my now 4-year-old. So he is also, when he is out there and having that, he comes home and discusses it with us so we can enlighten him. But these topics are so juicy today. And Gloria, what do you have to offer the group?
Okay, so my passion, here's my question. Why are slang words acceptable within the same race, but if the same words are used outside of that race, it's considered racism? Okay, so I wanted to talk about that because people are talking about this. I mean, all these topics today, it's the brilliance of this. It's real world stuff, right? So let me just give y'all a little bit of the viewers, not us, the viewers, some insider information. Think of it like you're at a family gathering, and there's that one cousin that everybody says, Boo-Boo needs a little prayer and exorcism. They really do. But if you go outside and a neighbor talks about Boo-Boo, oh, it's on, because you are not a part of the family. Yes, you may know it, but you better not say it. You don't have the right. You haven't earned the right. So that's part of it. It is all about where is safety, and we've talked a lot about this. It is not the words. People talk about the words. It is what is behind the word. Do I know your intention? And is the impact one where I feel I am in danger? I or my children are threatened. If not, if there's no negative stigma around it, if there's no danger to me, you can say what you want. I don't feel a loss of dignity. I don't feel a loss of my life, my livelihood, or anything. Then there's no problem. But if there is a whiff of uncertainty, all that generational stuff and all of that survivalist stuff comes up for me. That is really bottom, trying to keep it really short. What is behind it? There are black people. I use the N-word. I hate that. I hate that reference to the N-word. I hate it, but I'll use it. I use the N-word with my friends and family who are black all the time because we feel safe to do so. But I have other friends that they do not like it. They feel a loss of dignity. It costs me nothing not to say it around them. The main thing is I want them to know I respect them. I value them. I love them. So I use a different word. Okay. So that's it. What do y'all say?
I'm going to chime in on that one because just recently I went out and a gentleman said to me, "Do you hang around black people?" And I said, "Why would you say that?" And he said, "Because you have black demeanors." And it irked me so bad because I was like, well, so why? And I joke with it all the time. Like, I'll do little things like here and there that, it's just joking. But the way that he said it to me, like, you have black demeanors, just in the way that he said it, it was like a bad thing. Like, and it kind of like, wait a minute. When another friend just told me the same thing earlier, and he happened to say, "Oh, you do that little neck thing," and I was like, "Oh, I do?" He was like, "Yeah," but it wasn't like I didn't take it offensive. But yet, when this guy said it, like, "Oh, you have black demeanors," it just like, ugh, it got me. So, you know what? You're right, Gloria, in that sense where if I'm saying the word or I'm using some sort of slang from another race, it's when I feel comfortable around that race that I know they're not going to, like a friend or anybody else that's not going to take it offensive, that I'll use it. But when I don't really know, I try to not do it. But you're right in that sense. It's feeling where it's coming from, especially for myself, Mexican. Like, when we're all joking and somebody says, "Oh my God, you're such a beaner," it's like no big deal. Like, I'm like, oh gosh. But I've had it where a friend from another race will say, "Oh gosh, you and your beaner friends," and it just like, ugh, I'm like, wait, what did you say and what did you mean by that? And I get into that like defensive thing. So you're right, I hadn't even noticed of how it comes to you, like when there's no malicious intent to hurt, it like kind of just comes to you and it flows and the conversation still continues. But when it comes from a place of a bad or like a bad connotation with it, then I think is when it kind of irks a little bit. So yeah, that's my perspective on it.
You know what? You go ahead, Cathy.
Well, you were just talking about it depends on your intentions and it depends where you are and the safety and all of that. I have this amazing friend that I adore. He's Indian. And, he's been looking for girls and he wants to date. He's just such a great guy. I love him so much. We're really, really, really good friends. And one day he just comes and tells me, I don't know where the good women are. And I tell him, but man, you just can go back to India and marry someone. What's the problem? You guys do that all the time. And I saw his face and I knew I had broken his heart. My intention was the intention of hurting or not being aware. The trust was there, the friendliness was there, my awareness was there, and I still broke his heart. So there's something beyond all of these things that we're talking about, and there are boundaries that sometimes, I was not aware I couldn't cross. So, that to me, I had apologized so many times, like for hours, and it's not a big deal for him that I said it right now. He's tired of me apologizing, but it still hurts me that I hurt him for doing something that I was not aware was wrong. Those were my 2 cents, and that's all I wanted to share with you.
You guys.
I was just going to jump in super quick. I was just going to jump in and just say that I think, safety is important, openness, but I'm deeply passionate about, and I talk about emotional intelligence all the time. So this is where having that understanding about the timing, the appropriateness of the situation, really connecting with how is this person going to respond to this in this way? And I think when you start to have a higher level of social awareness on what's going on for people, I mean, for me, it happens to me all the time. Now being in the US, and I'll post a picture of me in a sari, and it's responded to very differently in the US than it is to in the UK. But people often say to me, "Oh, I love you, you're so exotic, you're so cool in your sari." But I think there's so much more to me than just being cool, in this sari. But I'm thinking this is how people are responding to it. They're seeing it as exotic, they're seeing it as different. But for me, I'm able to think of it and apply it from my own emotional intelligence that actually they don't mean anything by that. They might not just be used to something that is so different or so diverse. But it also goes back to checking in with yourself, being still for a moment and looking at the appropriateness of the situation itself and whether it's suitable for you to come in there, whether they would feel safe with you saying whatever it is that you want to say. Sometimes we just need to take a moment before we say these things.
And I thought about all of that before saying what I said. I thought about all of that. I still, it had nothing to do with my assessment of his interpretation. And it had everything to do with his assessment of my place being appropriate or not. So for me, personally, that is a line that I will never ever cross again in any kind of ethnical situation if I can avoid it. That was my lesson, and it doesn't matter what other people try to tell me, I'm not doing that anymore.
Well, Nancy, you said something that kind of struck me, because as I was thinking about this question, and I was so happy that you chose to bring that to this conversation, Gloria, because, in the white community, and I actually was in a situation like this where, white trash, oh, they're just white trash. Amongst white people, it's an okay thing to say. But then, someone outside of the race saying that same, slang. And I think you guys are right. I think the energy behind it, and I think everyone being able to feel that. But I honestly am asking for everyone to tap a little bit deeper, because here's the thing, and we've all heard, Einstein's, you can't create something new with the same energy of what it was created. Something that I'm super passionate about talking about is sometimes even think a big deal, if we can break that down and understand, if we just stop doing it altogether, or even change the way that we're perceiving it, that's how we really make change. And stop seeing it by, well, this person said it, and this person said it, well, and they could have the same meaning, but it's taken differently. But this is another reason why I think when we do tackle some of these questions, it makes people think, just like you said, Raj. If everyone just tunes in with themselves, and I always say, is it coming from love? Is it coming from a space of love? Because certainly there are times where you don't mean to have it take on that certain connotation, and sometimes we don't even know some of the things interculturally. Because I remember in a conversation, Nancy, I had said Mexican, I think, and then someone said, or no, I'm sorry, I said Hispanic, and someone said, well, they like to be referred to as Latino, and I said, okay, that's something I actually wouldn't know. And I remember one time saying, wait a cotton picking minute, meaning, it takes a minute to pick a cotton tree. That's how the whole term was come up. But I guess in the South, oh, don't say that, because someone could take that the wrong way. And it was like, oh, I had no idea. So again, I think it's intermixed with all of this. And so before we have an emotional reaction, step back and go, really, was that their intention? And kind of let it. So there's so many layers on that question. I love it. And Raj, I am really excited to hear what you have to kind of bring to the forefront of this conversation.
Okay, well, what I wanted to explore was, and this has come up for me a few times, in terms of my coaching and the enlightened entrepreneur women that I work with. Because when I'm working with women, we're often looking at their niche and their target market and where do they want to go next. And this has come up for me more than once, and I find it really interesting where I've been asked or somebody's made a statement, well, actually, I don't think I want to work with women. I find it really difficult to work with women in business. I find it difficult to work with them because they're not responsive, or they might be bitchy, or actually I just don't want to. I heard somebody say, I don't work with women because of the fluff and the chaos and the things that they're bringing. So what I like to do with the work that I do as a strategist, and I look at life and business strategies, is one of my biggest strategies I always give people is to ask questions. And I think it leads nicely to what you were saying, Gina, about exploring and asking questions and really thinking about what's going on here, what could actually be taking place. And my first question, always back to somebody who says that to me, is, well, what type of woman are you in business? Are you the type of woman that other women want to do business with? So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Whew, that's a good one. I was like writing some notes down, like, especially because I think it leads back to my question, which is why do female bosses talk down? And then because of my experience, I would have been one of those, Raj, that said, I would prefer not to work with women because of my experience. But times have changed for me, and I think my awareness is more of feeling. So when meeting Cathy, for example, her and I met at a camp, at an Enlightened Warrior camp. I immediately was drawn to her, and I felt safe and I felt comfortable with her. I know Gloria. I met her, and it was this immediate connection, like this magnetic, like I don't even know what she does, but I would love to like even just be around her and her energy. Same with Gina. I didn't even know her, and it was like, let's go on a trip together to Paris and spend a whole week together. Like, it was like, I don't even know her, but I've learned because of my awareness and feeling now. I get the chance to feel it out, and now it's like, oh, I could do business with that. But in playing devil's advocate, I can see why men or other women don't want to work with other women, because there's an emotional reaction that happens. And I've found it even for myself in business when I'm about to approach somebody about business, and it always comes down to a threat or a fear or a doubt that they have that is portrayed on to me. But then I also see it, for example, if a friend of mine is doing something amazing and I get a little irk, like, gosh, I need to be there. I have to stop and think, okay, where did that come from? I want to be genuinely happy. So why am I still feeling a little bit of resistance? And then I realize it because I'm judging my status or my level of business, and it's not where it wants to be. And then I realize it, and I learn how to let it go and really see the situation for what it is. And I see their efforts, and there's an abundance everywhere. Why am I feeling like this? And then I let it go, and then I'm genuinely happy for them. But I feel you said something very important, that my emotional intelligence has developed to where I can feel that and do that. So I'm attracting women that think exactly the same, that are genuinely happy for each other, that are genuinely there supporting, and it feels amazing. So I think it has a lot to do with, you're right, the emotional intelligence that comes with being a woman and learning how to not react to something right away, but to learn, where is that coming from? Why am I feeling that fear? Why am I feeling that doubt? Oh, that's an insecurity that just came up. I need to work on that. And take it as a learning lesson versus, oh, no, I'm not working with those kind of, it's more of like a mirror for myself as well. What kind of, and you said something where it was like, what type of woman am I that, would other women want to work with me? And now I can say abso-freaking-lutely, because I take all these things that other women are doing as learning opportunities. Like, oh my God, they did this. I want to try that. And take that as a positive versus seeing myself lower them. So there's my 2 cents.
I love it.
You ask, are you the kind of women that other women want to do business with? And that's a question I always, every single day, every hour, I ask myself. Especially as a boss, as a social entrepreneur, I manage a team of people. And for me, it's very important not what they can offer me, but it's more about what can I offer them. I already picked them. I already know how amazing they are. I already know their skills. Now I want to know their interests, and I didn't do this on purpose. It was kind of natural. And it was natural to me because I thought, how does my boss look like? How does my team leader look like? How can I emulate that for my own team? So I don't know before, but now I truly believe I am a woman that most women would like to work with. I truly, honestly believe that. And that's my openness with other women as well. I want to know your gifts. I want to know your skills. I want to see if we can work together. And that's how I personally come off with people. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes our skills match, sometimes they don't. But they can still refer me because I was good to them, sincerely and with my heart, not because of interest. Great question.
Love it. And I think, Cathy, that's what makes you so incredible at community building as well. And because you're able to be that leader. We talk about walking the talk, and actually anything that happens to us is a direct reflection of what we're giving out. We've talked about vibration and we've talked about frequencies. And I think I love what Nancy was saying about actually being so honest and open and transparent with ourselves that we can check in, because we're all human. We all have those feelings. We have them. I have it, that envy. Somebody else is doing better. How are they doing that? What's happening? But when that kicks in, actually having that ability, as Zig Ziglar calls it, check up from the neck up, checking in with yourself and thinking, okay, what's going on here? And I do that daily too. Do I really want to be this person? Where are these feelings coming from? What could be causing this? And what do I need to do differently? If I really want to be walking the talk out there. And I think this is sort of what we've been exploring throughout this, isn't it? About really holding that mirror up to yourself. Because if that's happening to you out there, it's feedback. It's either feedback of you don't want to behave that way yourself, so you learn not to be like that. It's feedback that that relationship actually is no longer serving you, and maybe it's time to look for a different community or tribe. Or it's feedback to go out there and do things like Gina's doing. Create that tribe of women that you want to be around that's going to lift you higher. So I think it's always checking in, with yourself at every point. And I've got a few tips, but I don't know if Gloria or Gina wanted to say anything else on that.
Yeah, I'm just agreeing with everything that you all are saying. Definitely the self-assessment and really looking at the behavior. When I look at, I don't want to work with that person, I don't want to work with that person, it is, okay, that's good that I know that. Now, what's behind that? Why not? And is it that person or is it the behavior? Because sometimes person A can be doing something and I don't like it. Person B does the exact same thing and there's no problem. So it's not the behavior, it's something else that's going on. So if we will be honest with ourselves without beating ourselves up and to say what buttons have been pushed. I know a button has been pushed, but what is it? And honestly, what is the most loving thing I can do in this moment? Sometimes the most loving thing is to walk away. Sometimes it is.
Raj,
I'm not going to beat you up as I'm walking away, though, because that's bad for you, and it's bad for me, and it's bad for anybody else around. So it's that kind of that growth is a beautiful thing.
yes, and I want to point out to something that you said, Raj, holding the mirror. You know, when we interact, when we find ourselves in those situations, asking yourself, when am I doing the same thing? In which area in my life am I doing the same thing? And really take that deeply, because as you said, if it's happening to you, not only you are bringing it to yourself, but you 100% positive are doing it in an area in your life as well.
And you know, ladies, our time is actually up, but I'm good to go a little bit over if you gals are, because I feel like we're really just, I mean, all of these questions, this whole conversation today has absolutely been unbelievable. And so, Raj, I would love for you to kind of end the show with, you know, your 5 tips. I will tune in and just say that, again, I'm going back to, you know, early on in my years, I probably was more responsive to feeling comfortable with the person, but now it's who gets me fired up. If I'm doing something with business, who really resonates, who do I resonate with? And I don't really worry about the ones that I don't. I just know and trust that I just don't vibe with them, and it's okay, because there's plenty of people that will absolutely love them and appreciate them, but I have a different flavor, as we all do. But I want someone to really understand me and my business, because you know, my coaching business, my transformation business, it is different than a lot. I don't fit into a lot of the spiritual community, so I want, when someone's helping and kind of looking over my work, I really want them to get me, you know. So anyways, I would love to have you kind of just share your knowledge, sister, and then I will close the show. And I just really want to take a minute and tell every one of you amazing ladies, thank you. I love the juiciness of this conversation. We did it with class, with style, and with love. So, Raj, I would love to hear what you have for us.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that, Gina. And I just want to say thank you. Ladies are fantastic. And I'm so passionate about this. So I've got goosebumps and all sorts of things going on. But I think the bottom line is, and we all know this, your vibe attracts your tribe. So, you know, if you're out there, you're experiencing some of these things that we've been exploring, what we're talking about. I mean, number one for me, and I talk about this all the time, I talk about it in my own coaching, my program, ask questions, explore, dig deeper, ask questions of yourself and ask questions of other people. You'll be surprised at how open people are to answering questions. So what we've been talking about, what's going on here? What could be causing this? What might be making me feel like this? Why could this person have responded to me in this way? Because there's no failure, it's all feedback and it's all lessons to learn from. Number one, always ask questions. Number two, check in with yourself. What's your energy like? What are your vibrations like? What might you be giving out in that interaction that you're having with somebody else? So it's kind of like we talk about do as you would be done by. We have high expectations of others. Sometimes we forget about our expectations that other people have of us. So check in with yourself. Number three, commit to improving and increasing your own self-connection and your own self-awareness. We are so busy being busy. Take 5-10 minutes, meditate, connect with yourself, journal. You got some horrible thoughts going on, or something has caused something not so nice in you, journal it, think about, going back to asking the questions, reconnect. So meditation and having that be still. So you've got 1, ask questions, 2, check in, 3, commit to your own self-awareness and self-connection. Number 4, walk the talk. You know, if you're out there and you are a coach, or you're in business, or you're in a senior position, or you're leading others, what do you do every day to be that example that you want other people to be? You've got to be that change that you want to see. And then number 5, personal accountability. Hold yourself accountable for your own behaviors and for the things that may happen as a result of your own emotions and feelings. And it's okay if you don't always get it right. But as long as you're following the other formula of asking questions and checking in, it's okay. We all make mistakes. But as long as you can hold yourself accountable and learn from that. So final summary, ask questions, check in, vibration, energy levels, commit to your own self-connection, walk the talk, and personal accountability.
Absolutely love the Raj. Absolutely love those. You hit on some big things, and as you know, we could do a show literally on each one of those that you named. I mean, the layers within this whole conversation is really it's really deep. And so my takeaway from this conversation with you lovely ladies is really about love. And Nancy, what did you take from this? What's your favorite moment?
My favorite moment, you know what, I hearing everybody's perspective, I think, was the most powerful for me, because I get to feel and see and have a perception on certain things and certain areas on all these topics because of my experience and my background. But hearing everybody else's backgrounds and everybody else's experiences, it makes you realize that you think you have like your eyes are open to the world and to the different possibilities. This just like expanded it even more, and I'm like, wow, now I really understand. Like my focus was here, and I thought I had it here. Now it's like, no, you didn't. Now I get to see like more veils and more layers coming off of all these topics and all these feelings. So I truly appreciate all these ladies for coming together today to really bring that knowledge, and I hope the viewers get to really get the deep feeling of every single one of you and your gifts and your experiences, and having the opportunity to share it with everybody today.
Awesome. And I am going to just quickly say that next month Nancy and I are going to tackle body image, and I'm really excited about that. As you know, that's a sensitive subject for women of all kind. And so tune in next month. As you know, the sisters come live the first Saturday of every month. And I'm sorry I didn't get next month's date for you for next this show, but we will be posting that. If you want to go on to our Facebook group, Sisterhood Connections, we always have updated all of our events. So I'm going to end today's show with just the ending of my article, which is really about why we're talking today. Oh, what a world it would be if we would come together in sisterhood and in the madness. We are never going to heal our world when there is still so much unacknowledged, unconscious behavior. In a world that can sometimes be challenging, we should love, inspire, and empower each woman and help the future generations to come. All it takes is coming together one by one, woman by woman, arm to arm, joining as sisters to form the sisterhood bond. I am encouraging everyone to speak up and break old cycles of programming and come together in love. We are born into this world not knowing racism or hate. We each, at our core soul magnitude, only know love. And I personally am sending love from my heart to everyone out there, and I am loving you all for joining this awesome topic. And thank you to our viewers, and love, love, love you. Mwah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.